there was quiet quitting, and that's here to stay. It seems like everybody's adopted that, but now we've got grumpy staying. This is terrible. There's got to be a way to say that in a better way, more catchy way that we can term, but I don't have the time or energy to think through it. It's exhausting. This is just bad attitude. Grumpy staying is immaturity. It's immaturity. This is a Business Insider article, and the headline is, first there was quiet quitting, now it's becoming grumpy staying. What does this look like in a couple of big companies? So I want to give you some real data from some big-time companies that highlight this grumpy staying business. Microsoft. So Insider had a reporter that obtained an internal poll. Is it just me, or are you slightly cynical when you see things like this? More on this in a second. So anyway, not sure how they got it, but Microsoft did an internal poll, and it found its way into this reporter's hands, and it found that 47% of Microsoft employees would stay with the firm if they got a comparable offer, down from 70% in November. So last November, 2022, same poll goes out, and Microsoft employees said, look, if I got a comparable offer, I'd stay. 70%. Now it's dropped to 47%. Another poll at Salesforce, also obtained by said reporter, found that just 34% of respondents said that Salesforce does a good job of retention, and 37% felt secure in their long-term futures there. One area that took a significant dip, just 50% said there was a climate of trust. Now, when contacted, I want to close the loop on this. When Microsoft spokesperson was contacted, they did say, they disputed the specific details that I read, but they did say it had dropped. Specifically, the amount of people who would stay if they got a comparable offer. So people are wandering their eyes. Why? Well, let's go back to the two pieces of data from Salesforce. Excuse me, three. We'll focus on two. 37% of Salesforce employees felt secure in their long-term futures. That's pretty abysmal. Okay? And then 50% said there was only 50% said there was a climate of trust. So distrust is up and people don't feel secure. Why? Massive layoffs. So I don't know if I mentioned this in the show recently, but I did some research on layoffs. And would you believe that companies that do mass layoffs, it never works out for them financially. But the number one reason they give for layoffs is financial. Microsoft just went through massive layoffs. So has Salesforce. These were widely reported. So what happens to the people left behind? Now, on paper, Salesforce and Microsoft, they're very smart people. They go, well, if we cut this amount of workers, we save this amount of cost as it relates to compensation, including benefits. And so you go, on paper, we saved a bunch of money. But here's what's interesting. The research shows that as it plays out, the productivity and people leaving because they're scared they're next ends up hurting productivity and profitability. And the time and money spent to replace the people who left who didn't get laid off ends up being a net negative. Fascinating. And that's why trust drops as well.